Hey, welcome to Toddy D's Pro Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Brooklyn's own Toddy D. It's been a New York minute since yours truly's done his podcast, but we are back and better than ever. Today, as you can see, we are paying our respects to the WWE Network. Well, it's been 7 years. Great footage, great content. As you can see, the theme is the Attitude Era during Stone Cold Steve Austin. Beer drinking, hell raising, all kinds of shit that went on at the WWE Network in the Attitude Era. Not that it's totally no longer, but now that Peacock TV has taken over the WWE Network, I'm sure you're aware by now that a lot of the footage, little by little is being edited out because in today's society, things are not accepted, which I feel, in my opinion, if you don't want to watch, nobody's forcing you. If you're a wrestling fan and you don't want to watch that particular content, don't watch it. Now, people like me who want to watch this content, now we can't, unless you have DVDs and VHS. So I'm paying tribute today to the memorial of WWE Network. I got the network the day it came out, and there was a lot of glitches the first few weeks, if all you guys remember who did have the network. But then eventually the content started increasing, and became great, and then the feed was better, the high def, whatever app you were using, everything started working out great. You got to relive all these memories. I mean, for one, I've seen every WrestleMania live, as well as all the other pay-per-views, but for those of you who were born after 1985, you had a chance to relive all these great moments on the WWE Network. And you still can, don't get me wrong, on the Peacock TV network, and I recently purchased it, but I got it because of the pay-per-views, and I want to see WrestleMania this coming weekend. I'm looking forward to it. But let's be honest, we're not going to be able to watch some of the cooler content like back in the days. If you guys know who Jason Sensation is, shout out to you, Jason. He is one of the greatest wrestling impersonators of all time. Jason Sensation started out doing impressions in Canada, and from what I remember, he went down to a local autograph signing with Jimmy Hart and Jerry the King Lawler. And someone informed Jimmy Hart and Jerry Lawler, that this guy, Jason Sensation, can do a hell of an Owen Hart impression. So Jerry wanted to hear it, and, little by little, he was blown away by the guy's impressions. And before you know it, Jason Sensation had a contract in the 90s during the Attitude Era. And, there was a great segment that Vince Russo wrote, and I was just recently watching Vince Russo being interviewed on The Hannibal TV. Shout out to you. Great interview. And, Vince Russo wrote a great storyline where the Nation of Domination, they were being poked fun at by Degeneration X. So Jason Sensation, he came out as Owen Hart because, Jason Sensation's portraying Owen Hart with an extended big nose. X-Pac, he was dressed as Mizark, as Mark Henry. You had the Road Dogg Jesse James, which get well soon, by the way. He was portraying D'Lo Brown. And Triple H was portraying The Rock. They all had a hand in this, making fun of, the Nation of Domination, and it was hilarious. But now in today's world, that is frowned upon, let's say, and it's looked at as an insult, and people take it the wrong way. And all it is pure humor. If you interview anyone from the Nation of Domination, starting with Ron Simmons, they'll all tell you that it was all in good fun. Nobody was offended by it. So if you, the fan or non-fan, is offended by it, don't watch. It's as simple as that. There's over 17,000 hours of WWE footage on the network. I heard that the Boogeyman is looking to come back and have another WWE run. Now, the guy is 56 years old, but, he's in great shape. And there's a lot of interest there because the Boogeyman with guys like, The Fiend, that can make a great rivalry. Or if the Boogeyman can actually get another run, even if it's a short run. I mean, look at MVP. He came back, he wrestled for a little bit, and then he became a manager for the Hurt Business, which I feel the Hurt Business had a lot more gas in the tank, and they should have never have stopped and broken up the team. It just makes no sense to me. The writing is not there with the WWE. This is the problem. They're hiring sitcom writers. They're not hiring people who know the product, who know the business. And, when I was watching Vince Russo's shoot interview on The Hannibal TV, earlier today, credit to them, Vince Russo said that he wouldn't work for WWE again, even if Vince McMahon paid him $1 million. Now, That's a lot of money, but you can tell the guy, he said he's burnt out from doing it. He doesn't want to be bothered. And I can't say I blame him, because why should you pour your heart and soul into writing good TV if they're just going to shit on you and be on you 24/7? So, I got respect for Vince Russo, and I can understand his points. But moving right along, speaking of WrestleMania, a lot of WWE superstars are currently quarantining themselves, not because they have COVID, but because they choose to just stay protected so they're safe, healthy, and ready for WrestleMania, which makes a lot of sense. And also, you don't want to say no to that big paycheck, and I can't blame them, because if they tested positive, God forbid, then they're going to lose that payday. So hats off to the to the talent that are playing it safe and quarantining themselves in preparation for WrestleMania. I would do the same thing if I were in their shoes. So speaking of WrestleMania, I heard a shocking potential spoiler that the match between The Fiend and Randy Orton may be like a possible squash match, where The Fiend is just going to like run over Orton and pin him 1, 2, 3 right away. Now I can understand that The Fiend, he should go over in WrestleMania because of the whole burning angle. I get it, but I don't think it should be a squash match. Back in the day, in the late 70s, early 80s, when we used to watch, WWF at the time, Superstars on Saturday and Sundays, back in good old Brooklyn, New York, shout out to Brooklyn, you used to watch, a squash match. You would watch, a star against a jobber. You would have someone like an Iron Mike Sharp, going up against like a big name, like a Ricky Steamboat. And, obviously, that Steamboat was going to go over, but this talent enhancement, as Bobby Heenan used to call them, the ham and eggers, they were making these stars look even that much more better than they already are, or were, I should say. So that was a squash match. So I don't see why you would have a squash match at WrestleMania. I feel that nobody's putting in the potential and the time to write good material and storylines for WrestleMania. When I was younger, there would be a huge build to WrestleMania. Take WrestleMania 5, for instance, when the Mega Powers, they broke up. And it wasn't like right away. You were talking about a 5 to a 6 month build, where little by little you'd see cracks in the foundation. You'd see Macho Man looking at Hogan with jealousy, the way he was looking at Elizabeth, thinking that Hogan is turning on him and he wants to steal his woman. And little by little you'd see these little changes. And then eventually, the heel turn in Savage would be the payoff. But everything today is rushed. Back in the day, they would write months and months worth of TV, take their time, and it'd be a great payoff. Now, everything is just thrown in, all together. I get it. There's COVID. There's all kinds of situations going on in 2021. But still, that's no excuse for not being able to write good story writing and good storytelling. So I really hope that's not going to be a squash match at WrestleMania. I mean, I don't care if The Fiend goes over. I get it. But, let's make it a good match. Let's have some storytelling. Let's show you how we got to this point, how we got to the build. Not just a 1, 2, 3 squash match. If I want to see that, I'll go back to watching on Channel 9 back in the early 80s, watching something get, squashed. Not at WrestleMania. That makes no sense whatsoever. So they scrapped the WrestleMania match. I heard that Mustafa Ali, he wanted to wrestle Kofi Kingston. And basically that match, the story tells itself. Back in what was it, WrestleMania 35. WrestleMania 35, Mustafa Ali was supposed to be in the Elimination Chamber, and, not that he was going to main event WrestleMania 35, but because he got injured, as you all know or don't know, Kofi Kingston took Mustafa Ali's, place, and Kofi won the Elimination Chamber, and he wound up headlining WrestleMania 35, and he beat Daniel Bryan for the title, for the WWE Heavyweight Championship. So the story tells itself, where Mustafa Ali is jealous that, Kofi stole his thunder, and, now they're going to feud, and he's going to get his payback that he so rightfully, deserves in his eyes. And that would have been a great feud, Mustafa Ali versus Kofi Kingston, at least a good mid-card feud for WrestleMania. But they went a different route, as you all know by now. AJ Styles and Omos are going to be challenging the New Day for the tag team titles. I'd rather see a singles match between Mustafa Ali, to be honest with you, against Kofi Kingston. I had enough of the New Day. It's nothing against them. But, they ran its course. And the Hurt business is just getting started, and they broke them up already. So I don't see the logic. I don't see the creative storytelling at all whatsoever when it comes to WWE these days, because you keep a group together for like 8 years or whatever it's been, and you have a group like the Hurt Business that was just getting hot, and all of a sudden you just break them up with no explanation really. The Hardy Boys returned in WrestleMania 33 to a thunderous pop, and they got included into the tag team tournament, and they won the titles that night. And when they came out, the roof blew off the building. I mean, they went absolutely crazy, batshit crazy, hearing the Hardy Boys music, seeing them come out doing their thing. Everybody loved it, and it didn't even make a top 10 pop. Now, is it because WWE is petty, and because of, it's like a punishment maybe because Matt Hardy is no longer in WWE and now employed in AEW? That could be the reason. Who knows what the true reason is? But in the top 10, the top 3, I should say, starting with number 3, was Kofi wins the championship at WrestleMania 35, which is up there. I wouldn't say it's number 3. Number 2, The Rock and Hogan when they faced off at WrestleMania 18. I mean, from what I remember, the crowd was going nuts for about maybe 7 or 8 minutes before they even locked up. That was insane. So that should definitely be in the top 3. And then they said one pop match was when Daniel Bryan won the WWE Championship at WrestleMania 30. Again, it's up there because of the whole yes thing, but in my opinion, it's not number 1. The Hardy Boys should have definitely been in that top 3. And again, simply my opinion. Speaking of the Hall of Fame, I heard earlier today that in the celebrity wing, the Prince of Darkness, my main man, Ozzy Osbourne, shout out to you, Ozzy, is going to be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in the celebrity wing. And I think that's someone that's well overdue because, Ozzy played a big part back at WrestleMania 2. He was the corner man with the British Bulldogs, which I remember watching live. I mean, that kind of dates me, showing how old yours truly is. But it was a great time. And then Ozzy came back for an episode in 2007 on SmackDown. He performed, I believe. And then he was a guest. He guest hosted Raw back in 2009. So Ozzy's been around, on and off in the WWE over the years. There's a lot of people that were inducted that I'm not going to get into now that I feel they have no business being in the Hall of Fame. But, it is what it is. I really hope one day that WWE actually has a physical Hall of Fame. We'll see what happens. So, tonight's Monday Night Raw. The only match I'm aware of is Drew McIntyre is going up against King Corbin. See what happens. Obviously, someone's either going to interfere or try to, off, Drew McIntyre because allegedly Bobby Lashley has a bounty on Drew McIntyre's head. Kind of cheesy storyline, especially for 2021. But, that's what's going on these days. You don't have good storytelling. You don't have good writers. You have people that are sitcom writers. Now, a sitcom writer is good for a sitcom, for comedy. Now, I don't know about you guys out there. Cinematic matches, I mean, I enjoyed Undertaker with AJ Styles. I watched the cinematic match that was involved with Darby Allin and Sting with Taz's boys at the AEW pay-per-view last month. It was all right. It wasn't terrible. But I'm an old school guy. I have my catchphrase that a lot of my friends know, been a fan since 77. And, once the pay-per-view era started, actually before pay-per-view, there was closed-circuit television. And, I've seen it all. I was very blessed to be able to watch every single WrestleMania up to 37. That's going to be, this coming weekend is WrestleMania 37. I've seen all 36 up to this point, and I've seen them live. And when I say live, either I was physically there or I had the opportunity to watch it live, whether it was through a satellite, through, satellite TV, or I would go to a high school in Brooklyn to watch it, in the auditorium. You'd pay a ticket for that. It was great. The first WrestleMania, I got to see it at my job. I was only 14 years old. I was working after school, making a couple of bucks. And the boss mentioned that, he had the satellite dish and having a big party for WrestleMania back in March of 85. He said everybody can bring a guest. We did. We had a blast. And I'll never forget it. And I was hooked. But like I said, fans in 77. But since the pay-per-view era started in 85, I was hooked. I mean, between closed-circuit TV to pay-per-view and then the WWE Network, which I am in mourning big time. I really love the network. I mentioned earlier I've had it since its inception. Since the first day it came out, I had it. And, that was like my Netflix of wrestling. I was in love with it. The product was great. Everything from the originals to the pay-per-views, from watching, reliving, Monday Night Raws, like the Monday Night Wars rather, watching everything, I mean, all the originals, the documentaries, reliving the pay-per-views, watching old SmackDowns, old Raws, old Monday Night Wars. And I'm not saying that we're not going to be able to watch it on the Peacock Network, Peacock TV, whatever it's called, but we're not going to be able to watch certain things that are being blackballed today. Now, let's just go back in time for a second. When WWE became a public traded company, I knew then that a lot of shit was going to change. I mean, the Attitude Era couldn't last forever, and I'm not saying that we should have the Attitude Era now, but even though it's 2021, things should be a lot more edgier. I mean, there's a lot of cheesy shit going on, stuff that, bothers me and insults me as a wrestling fan. But it is what it is. This is, what we're stuck with. And unfortunately, I don't see any change or any upside to this in the near future. Hopefully, AEW will keep on flourishing and WWE talent and creative will be forced to actually write good shit and not just, be very lazy and just, write anything that they think is funny or amusing at that time. I mean, they're making their talent look bad lately. I mean, if you watch the product and wrestling, and you have a mind for the business, you can see when a talent is being poked fun at by the writers and by the company. And that's not the WWE that I grew up on. I grew up on great storylines, awesome rivalries, awesome pay-per-views. I mean, I can remember stuff that happened, maybe the first 20 or so WrestleManias, like the matches, the order, and things that happened in the last few years. It's lackluster compared because it's just, it's not there. The story writing is not there. And, everybody's making a big deal about Stone Cold Steve Austin. My main man, I got him on my shirt. Shout out to you, Steve. He's going to be interviewing Chris Jericho on the Broken Skull Ranch. Everybody's making a big deal because Jericho's with AEW. Think about something. They're friends. They've known each other for years. Stone Cold ran up by Vince McMahon. He didn't have a problem with it, so I don't know why everybody else does. Everybody's making a big deal out of this. It's not a big deal. In the past, when AJ Styles was on, they mentioned TNA Wrestling. I don't know if Stone Cold will use the AEW words or letters, but, it should be a great interview. So that I'm looking forward to. And I am looking forward to WrestleMania only because, like I said earlier, I've been watching it since the beginning. And every time I watch the product lately, I'm hoping for change. I'm hoping to be, wooed. And I don't mean Ric Flair woo. I just mean being wooed and saying, holy shit, this is great. Something I can embrace. But, we'll see what happens. It's been a while since I've been on the air here having my podcast, and I'm happy to be back, and I'm looking forward to this year. I'm going to have a lot of special guests coming on, and when they're not on, we'll be discussing all kinds of stuff. You guys can hit me up on Twitter at Toddy D Wrestling. Leave me some comments, good, bad, or indifferent. I love to hear from everybody. Whether you agree with what I said today or not, doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, we can agree to disagree. And if someone's offended by certain content, you're entitled. But I feel if you have the option not to watch it, I should have the option to watch it. And if the Peacock Network is going to be blurring things out or just removing history because people are offended by it, it's not fair to the ones who want to watch it. And I think that, there's two sides to a coin, and we should both have the option, to watch or not watch. It's very simple. Oh, and by the way, I wanted to bring up another thing. Titus O'Neil is the recipient this year of the Warrior Award. Number one, congratulations, Titus. The guy is great. He does a lot of work, a lot of charity work. He's a great guy. He's very involved in the community. He's a big spokesman, big ambassador for WWE, and it's very, very well deserved. But in my opinion, either the Warrior Award should have been split with two people or to the one person I'm about to mention. And a lot of people are going to agree with me, and that's Shad Gaspard. Unfortunately, Shad passed away attempting to rescue his son, and he drowned. Very sad. Crime Time were a great tag team. I got to meet them years ago. Great guys. And, my heart goes out to his family. And I just feel that Shad Gaspard is just as deserving as Titus O'Neil to be a recipient of the Warrior Award. With all the money WWE is making and all the great things they're doing, why not just give two Warrior Awards? This is a special thing. The Warrior recipients in the past, those one individuals were the solo deserving people, and I get it. But for this year, I feel that it should go to Titus O'Neil as well as Shad Gaspard. And again, that's my opinion. I'm Brooklyn's own Toddy D. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. I am looking forward to hearing from everybody, and I'll see you all at ringside. Stay well and be safe.